So we're back with the individual mission on episode 17 of America to Korea A2K. We're continuing where we left off, and so we had two performances in the last episode. And in the last episode, I also noticed that at the end, they said there was going to be a finale on September 20th and 21st, 2 days consecutively on the Wednesday and then on the Thursday. And I postulated that with only 6 episodes left, that must mean a lot of people are going to get dropped. But as soon as I said that, I put the video up, and then like the next day I get a call from one of my students, and she's like, Professor P, they don't need that many episodes to go through all 9 girls. Because this is the individual evaluation. So you can take even 2 or 3 episodes to look at them all, but then the next evaluations are probably going to be group performances. And I was like, all right, so there could be like, I don't know, like 3 groups fitting into an episode, 2 groups, one group, one big group for the final. And so it made a lot of sense to me. And so I do retract that maybe they'll drop like 1 or 2 people at most. But yeah, it's definitely I thought they were gonna summarize. I thought this was gonna be it. They had 7 people to show in this episode. They showed 4, but I thought they were gonna summarize at least like 4 of them and show only 2. But anyways, looks like in this episode we're gonna get 4 trainees, and then there's gonna be 3 saved for the next episode. So let's just get right into it. So the first person up is KG here. KG, she's coming out with a guitar. She's gonna be playing "Blue" by Leanne Rimes. Now, back in the practice, she had trouble breathing while singing and playing the guitar, and the vocal coach mentioned something about her beat being off with her playing and her singing combined. And so this is just like a struggle that she had, which is that she doesn't, I guess, it's a lot to balance when you think about it, like even just singing and thinking about your breathing is a lot to balance, but now you got to play a guitar on top of that. And so obviously she's having troubles, but this is something that she has to practice, and kind of like some of those skills you're going to have to practice to the point where it becomes muscle memory. And so it turns out with her practice, she practiced until 5 a.m. in the morning, until her fingers fell off. And that was basically her strategy for beating this thing. Also, you'll notice her standing here in practice, but then in her performance, she's actually just sitting down, which maybe helps a lot more. So let's just get to her performance. So in her performance, I thought, what? Am I cutting her off? I thought that her voice was super clear. And I noticed that she had very nice transitions between like this almost yodeling sound and then her lower voice, which was basically just like if someone was just almost whispering to you. And so I felt like this was pretty clear cut, good performance. I didn't really notice anything personally, but when you get to JYP's criticism, now JYP, he's saying that she needed to focus on staying on beat. Other than that, she perfectly expressed the emotion, and after she got her stone, he also said that she has a lot of raw talent, but it wasn't polished. But it was basically him saying that if he could work on her, then he could get the best out of her. And so it was kind of an optimistic statement more than anything. So that's KG. She ended up getting a stone. Next up is Christina. And Christina is doing Swing Baby by JYP. And JYP himself admits that that is a hard song. When it comes to her practice, the coach says that she is just dancing at this moment when he first sees her, I think. But she needs to express the fun in the song. And so for her, it was basically coming down to an issue of her focused on translating, understanding, and then conveying the meaning of the lyrics. When it finally got past that section, her vocal trainer was saying that she could tell that she practiced a lot and she tried to understand it. And basically, she could already tell from that point that all she really had to do was just continue to practice and she would nail it. And so the vocal coach was pretty much, she was confident in her ability. And as we know from the past, JYP even says that this girl has an ability like him, kind of like an ability to acquire abilities. And so at this point, the last thing that happened in practice is that she said she had to write a rap, but then she decided to eat first, and then going straight into the performance. So I felt from the very beginning it was good expression to start. And as she was singing, her voice is actually stable. And that surprised me because I didn't really have a lot of confidence there, to be honest. But her voice was stable and her rap was good as well. The only thing I would say was off in this performance is that at some point there was a random fill in with background vocals. And I think it was JYP's vocals, actually. And so I was wondering, was that fill in, was that corrective or was it intentional? And by that I mean, did she intentionally mean to let JYP's background vocals come in and fill those spots? And was it for like breathing reasons? Or did she actually miss those because she ran out of breath and the people on the show just put it in the background or something? I don't know. That's just a guess, but by the fact that I didn't really notice it throughout the rest of the song, I really don't know. Maybe it was intentional. It would, I mean, if you didn't hear it throughout the whole song, it could be both corrective or intentional. It doesn't really define one way or the other. But otherwise, other than that, I thought it was really good. And she did a good job and she looked great as well. Now, JYP's criticism was that if she couldn't hit Let's Dance in a full voice, if she could hit it, he would have given her full marks, but she didn't. And so that was the only thing that really kind of like detracted from his enjoyment of it. But he was still glad that she tried. And he actually ended up complimenting her following that and saying her dance got better. She had a powerful performance that was skillful. And her vocal was also stable. He also said that her gestures conveyed the fact that she did show she understood the lyrics. And so in his mind, she's smart, focused, dedicated, and she has the right attitude. And for that, she got a stone. And I thought that was very well deserved. And so next, we get Gina. Now, Gina, JYP asked her how it was going as she was no longer just a solo trainee, but now she's going through this process on A2K. And she basically said it was nerve-wracking, but she's grown to be relaxed and kind of more free around the girls. And I think that she's growing attached, and there's a lot of benefit to just having friends around, I guess, that you can, like, build each other up. I feel like maybe she didn't... No, there's no one in her kind of age bracket, or at least no one working with her who can work with her. So now she's no longer training alone. And as for her performance, she's doing 2 different tiers by the Wonder Girls. And when it came to her dancing, the dance coach, he wanted her to emphasize the feeling. And he also said for her to not chop up her moves. Basically, he's talking about dancing in cursive. But I think he's making a mistake here. Because, just telling someone how to fake emotions in dance isn't really solving the root problem here. Now, Gina, while she was practicing and showing her dance to others, she actually got a lot of teammates speaking positively about her in the edit. And I thought that was kind of like, that's kind of going the extra mile as being part of the editing team. And so there is some favoritism there. Now, JYP, he basically wants to know if this girl can be a real girl or just not. She's still gonna be a robot? I don't know. But hopefully she figures it out sooner rather than later. And so it gets to performance, and I thought the voice was strong. And I thought the dancing was alright, but I still felt it was disconnected. And when I was watching this, it was pretty much the same throughout the whole thing. Like, there was just something about it. I feel like she's maybe too young and inexperienced to understand it. And here's the thing. I don't know the answer to teach someone to go along with the current, to get into the tides of the emotions that are supposed to be flowing through the song. But you can tell that she is kind of coming from one angle first, and she has to learn that this isn't something that you can fake. This isn't something you can practice on and get. She has to start from the emotions first. She has to start learning how to sway with it as if the emotion is a wind and she's a flower, and she has to allow herself to bend, not stay too rigid. How can you explain this to someone? I don't really know. I've never figured out how to help someone else figure that out. Some people are just like that, and it'll take experience. It'll take you opening up your own floodgates for that stuff to open up. Like I used to never laugh out loud while watching The Simpsons, and then like later on in life, I started watching an episode, and I started laughing out loud. And so I don't know where that came from, but like emotions, you have to open, you have to release them, and then once you do, it's like a completely open thing that doesn't really close without a lot of effort, really. And so that is basically her issue here. JYP, he basically said her fundamentals are sound, but he still doesn't get her emotionally. And so we're on the same page there. And JYP says it's not a skill, but a mindset. And she needs to tap into something emotionally. And from the way he's talking, you can see that even he doesn't know how to teach someone these things. And JYP's actually worried about her. And it's kind of like, if I was JYP, I would start an exploratory committee in order to determine how can we come up with a foolproof way to shock people, or maybe not shock them, maybe ease them into it, but get them to learn how to open up emotionally and really feel things out. Like, what is it that you're really getting at? Are you feeling it too deeply? Are you guarded because of like some emotional issue? Maybe she has issues with her life she needs to work through. I don't know. But there's definitely something here that would be a huge risk for him to take her through and put in the group if she is never capable of figuring that out. And that's the main reason. Like, I'll look through the comments here and people will be like, I'm in the comments actually writing, he's right. And then other people are saying, he's being too mean. It's cruel. It's not right. It's not about that. It's about, this is something that even he, and even I'm saying, we don't know how to get people to unlock this hidden ability. And so with that, it's a risk to take her on, because it's like, if you knew a way to get them to open up that way, then you would just like tell them how, and then wouldn't be a problem. Everything would be just about the technical. But in this case, it's going to be a lot of risk to take her and put her in the team if she doesn't figure this out quickly. And she has to figure it out quickly. Unless that's not the case, because JYP ended up giving her a stone anyways. And so this is the meaning of my thumbnail. Clearly, it's skill over emotion at this point. But who knows? She could be dropped at the very end. But I feel like he was way too generous. I think she needed... I mean, maybe she needs to have a fire lit under her and not get the stone. Maybe she needs that motivation. Right? Like, what's it going to take? Are you just going to continue to just practice? Anyways, I'm spending too much time on this. Let's go to the next person. So, Camilla, she's singing One Last Time by Ariana Grande. In practice, she seemed kind of off, and the vocal coach noticed that her voice cracked from the high note, and it has to do with breathing. So anyone who studies singing knows that if you don't want to crack during a high note, and you're capable of reaching that high note, then really it's about the breathing. And, if you're just a person at home, and you're singing along with the song, you're not someone who's practiced that song. You're not someone who knows at which point during the song you're supposed to have the air ready for that point of the song. And so for her, it was really just about her just planning it out and practicing and getting it right, so that when it came to that point, she would have the air ready and she would know when to take that gasp or whatever. But anyways, other than that, the dance coach said that she needs to put emotion into her dance, and she was struggling in practice. And I don't know, at this point I was actually noticing the language barrier. I assumed they always had the translators in the room with them, and I think they do, but at the same time, it seems like there are even things that are hard to translate when it comes to like art. Like if you're like, have you ever seen people do choreography? They don't even, like, some people will count the beats, and some people just go da da da. Like, you're not explaining it; they're just going pop, right? Like, how do you explain that? Like, is the guy just gonna say pop? And so there are just some things, and that's not probably not a good example, but there are just some things that maybe just don't translate well. And so I was worried about that, and she was worried because her voice was in a poor condition. And like I commented in the last video, is there an issue with the air quality? Or I don't think so, because JYP explicitly said that they cycle the air in some way, unless there's the air quality in the city or their hotels, or it could be like foods and microbes that they're not used to, like things that they have to just let their immune system help them get over. But other than that, That was basically her practice. And then we get to her performance, and I felt like this was a strong start. The voice is good, and she was managing her emotions and expressions well while dancing, and the chair moves were ace. And so when she got there, she actually did reach the high note, and she did a good enough job, in my opinion. I didn't notice anything really bad. I mean, just very subtle, but like nothing that would distract me, really. And so I feel like she did a really great job, probably the best job out of anyone so far. JYP's opinion is that this girl is basically just talented, and all her rens were appropriate, not forced sounding. She accurately hit all the notes during her rens, and she can sing and dance with emotions. And so for JYP, Camilla's vocals are on a different level, and she is basically like, he was surprised about it because she seems like the girl next door, or like kind of like the Canadian girl, and then when she turns on, she basically becomes someone else. And who does that remind you of? That reminds you like of a lot of members of Twice, like Jiho is like that, Nayeon is kind of like that. Like these girls are like one way, and then they turn on, and suddenly they're a different person, right? And so that is basically all that there was in this episode. Next week there were some previews, but I'm not gonna really spoil them or get into them. I prefer not to look at that. I just prefer to see the performances in real time. But that is basically it. And so let's look at what we have here in the end. This is our current roster. So pretty much everyone who's performed has gotten a stone. And the last three are Savannah, Lexus, and Yuna. And it seems like someone may not do that well, and someone may start crying. So I'm not confident that everyone is gonna get this stone. Actually, they emphasize that if you're in the bottom two twice, and I'm not sure if that's twice in a row or just twice period, then that means at least one person is guaranteed to be kicked from this if they don't drastically improve their score each week. And so I'm worried about the final 9. I don't know if there will be 9. If you're telling me there's 3 evaluations, someone's going to be in the bottom for this evaluation, and then we have 2 more evaluations, probably team projects, and then someone else is going to be in the bottom, or someone else is going to be in the bottom. It's probably going to be the same couple of girls. It's going to be, I mean, who's going to be in the bottom? Everyone expects Yuna probably to do the worst. And then a lot of people expect Lexus to do second worst, and then Savannah to do third worst. Who knows? But when it gets to the team performance, maybe things will change. But anyways, I'm thinking a lot of people, maybe there's going to be 8 girls in the end. I think that's the highest possibility, based on what we know so far. Is that basically, I think Yuna and Misha were always in the bottom, so Yuna might get cut from this group, and that's a high possibility. And I feel like, given that there's 3 evaluations, and unless they can all avoid the bottom, then at least one of them will get cut, and that's a huge likelihood. Anyways, dragging this out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and then I'll see you in the next video.